Welcome to our last section of Chapter 2, 2-10. We're going to break this section up into two parts. It covers percent increase and decrease, and then it also talks about discounts and markups. So today we're going to talk about percent increase and decrease, and then in the next video we'll talk about how to deal with discounts and markups. So you have three vocab words today. The first one is percent change. And this is an increase or a decrease given as a percent of the original amount. So you might have heard, there was a 20% increase in our scores this test or something like that. That's called percent change. And then hopefully you know what discounts and markups are. Discounts is when you go to buy something at the store and you get the price reduced. So like a 20% off sale or something that you'd see at a store. And then a markup is the amount by which a wholesale cost is increased. So when a store orders something, they get it for what's called a wholesale price, and then they will mark up the price when they sell it in order to make money. So that's what a markup is. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to calculate percent change. And we have here a little formula that you'll need to know. Percent change is equal to the amount of increase or decrease divided by the original amount. And then we always express that as a percent. So as you've been learning, when we go from percents, or from decimals into percents, we just got to move the decimal point a little bit. So here's what your first type of problem will look like. It'll say find the percent change and tell whether it's an increase or a decrease. So this one says from 8 to 10. So in order to find the percent change, we're going to figure out the amount of increase or decrease. And to do that, you take the big number minus the little number. It doesn't matter what order they come in. That top part will always be the big number minus the little number. So here, I'm going to do 10 minus 8. And then I'm going to divide that by the original amount. Now if you read this, it says we went from 8 to 10. So that means we started at 8. So 8 is our original amount. So then 10 minus 8 is 2. And 2 divided by 8 is 0.25. Then I want to change that into a percentage. So my percent change would be 25%. Now the last part I have to say is whether it was an increase or a decrease. Well, you notice here I went from 8 to 10, so that means it got bigger, so it's an increase. So instead of having to write the word increase all the time, we're just going to draw a little upward arrow. So that means 25% increase. And again, this is exactly how I'd want you to show your work. Let's look at another example. Here we're going from 75 to 30. So again, remember at the top we always do big minus little. So this is 75 minus 30. We're going to divide by the original number. Okay, well I went from 75 to 30. So that means I started at 75. So that's my original number. So 75 minus 30 is 45 divided by 75. Well, 45 divided by 75 is 0.6. So if I change that into a percentage, 60%. Now I went from 75 to 30, so I get smaller, so it's a decrease, so I'm going to put a downward arrow. So it'll be a 60% decrease. And that's how I find percent change. And then I got to remember to tell whether it's an increase or a decrease. Let's look at a few more here, and I'll go a little faster through these. So I'm going from 200 to 110. So again on the top, big minus little over the original number, which was 200. And again, if you're understanding this, go ahead and try to do these on your own before I do them, just to make sure that you have them. So 200 minus 110 is 90 divided by 200. Well, 90 divided by 200 is 0.45. Again, I have to change that into a percent, so it's 45%. And I went from 200 to 110, so I got smaller, so it's a decrease. How about this one? From 25 to 30. So again, I go big minus little on top. Over the original, I started at 25. So that's 5 over 25. 5 divided by 25 is 0.2. Again, I change it to a percent, so that's 20%. And I went from 25 then to 30, so I went up, so that's an increase. And one more example of this. Start out once again with big minus little. Divide by the original number. Started with 80. So 115 minus 80 is 35 over 80. 35 divided by 80 is 0.4375. Gotta move my decimal, so I got 43.75%. And I started at 80, went to 115, so I got bigger, so that's an increase. Okay, so that's how I find percent increases and percent decreases. Now the second type of problem you'll see looks like this. It says find the result when 12 is increased by 50%. As you can see, these ones are a little bit different. What I'm going to do here, my first thing I got to do is I got to figure out what's 50% of 12. If you'll remember from earlier, all I got to do is change my percent to a decimal, so that's 0.5, and multiply it by 12. Well, 12 times 0.5 is 6. Now in my problem it says 12 is increased by 50%. So that would mean 12 plus 50%, which would be 12 plus 6. So the result would be 18. And that's how I would do that one. Okay, now this one's just a tad bit different. It says find the result when 55 is decreased by 60%. Now the first step's going to look similar. To figure out what is 60% of 55. So again, I change my percentage into a decimal, that's 0.6. So I do 55 times 0.6, and I get 33. Well, here it's decreased. So hopefully you're thinking, well, I'm going to now subtract it, because that's what decreased means. So I'm going to do 55 minus 33, which is 22. So my answer would be 22. Let's look at a couple more. Find the result when 72 is increased by 25%. So again, my first step is to figure out what's 25% of 72. So that'd be 72 times 0.25. Well, 72 times 0.25 is 1 point. I don't think I did that right. 72 times 0.25 is 18. Now this is increased, so I'm going to do 72 plus 18. That gives me 90. So my answer would be 90. One last one here. Find the result when 10 is decreased by 40%. So what's 40% of 10? You probably already know that before you multiply, but it turns out to be 4. Now this one is decreased, so I have to do 10 minus 4, which is 6. And again, this would be the work I'll be looking for as you do your homework and take your Friday quiz, okay? So that's the first part of section 2-10. Like I said, we'll finish it up in the next video. We'll see you guys tomorrow.